Welcome back to What I Wish I Knew Sooner, the podcast for the curious, the creative, and the entrepreneurial. Each episode, we'll be talking to inspiring guests about our careers, creativity, and all the things we wish someone had told us sooner. Today's guest is someone who is incredible and has built something I'd say all of us women need. Sophie Turner is the founder of the soon-to-launch hormone-syncing app, Rhae, host of the Playing to Win podcast, and a leading voice in the anti-wellness era. Her work is helping us reconnect with our bodies, reclaim our narratives, and dismantle the systems that were never built for us as women. Hi, Sophie. Welcome to the podcast. We'd love it if you could give us an introduction to yourself.
Hello, it's so nice to be here. God, where do I start? I am the CEO and founder of Rhae, which is a hormone syncing app that goes beyond just period tracking and cycle syncing. It really measures and tracks your energy patterns, your emotions, and it's also the first hormone syncing app that caters for trans people. I also host Play to Win, which is a top 10 UK podcast.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, we've been super excited to hear more about Rhae. Being the world's first hormone app, we'd love to learn more about why you decided to build it and what exactly you are building.
So when we think about women's bodies, it's something that we're not really taught about at school outside of a very basic sex ed stuff. All of us have periods. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to hide. It's something that we should be talking about openly. And I think if the world was different and men were the ones that have periods, there'd be a lot more support and care.
100%.
And we've just been so conditioned to just get on with it. And as we all know, even though we do, because we're women and we're fucking superheroes, we just push through it and we've just normalized period pains, fatigue, brain fog, really struggling at certain times of the month with conflict resolution and being able to communicate and advocate for ourselves. We've just normalized that. And what that's led to is record rates of burnout in women, record rates of women leaving the workplace, record rates of female infertility, which if you think about that and deep that for a second, what the trajectory of infertility looks like, we're not in a good place. So my own journey in terms of what led me to this. So I worked for FTSE 100 companies in PR my entire career, straight out of uni. So I was always in the rat race, and a real pivotal time in my life was just before I turned 30, I went through IVF, and it was only at that age that I was diagnosed with PCOS. And I just couldn't believe that I was nearly 30 years old and I had a significant fertility issue and I didn't even know what it was. And the majority of people only know what that is because Grace Beverley speaks about it. We shouldn't be getting our healthcare from influencers. As great as she is, fantastic that she's raising awareness, I should have that information from 16 years old, from the education system. If not, my GP should be able to diagnose that. And I feel like healthcare for women is so underfunded. It's just not seen as something that we need to really focus on. So going through all of that, really, so much of it made sense from the diagnosis about different things that I'd been feeling. And then it came to life that I also had PMDD. And that was something that I don't like labels, but I think it really helps to name it. Then you feel empowered to know exactly what it is. And you're just not fucking crazy because that's how you feel.
Yeah.
And to be gaslit and dismissed by the medical system and misdiagnosed over and over and over again leaves you so alienated in your own body. I didn't want anyone else to go through that. I also then was lucky enough to go on to have a daughter. I want her growing up in the world that we've had to. I want her to understand her body and have literacy of it and not fear of it or shame of it, where she has to shove a tampon up her sleeve in a restaurant to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
Periods aren't something to be ashamed of. They're literally part of creation
Yeah.
of life. And it was really that journey that made me completely abandon my 15-year career, and I'd reached a really senior level. I ticked every box on paper, but I was so unhappy. And it was only then that I realised I was so burnt out because for so many years I'd been ignoring what my body was telling me. I just pushed through it all. And at what cost? I lost a lot of happiness during that time. And it was going through this journey and really wanting to create something that could be a force for good in the world that made me realise that. And that's kind of what's led me to Rhae.
I think a lot of people might not even know they have PCOS or PMDD. Is PMDD the one where you get quite depressed before your period? Yeah.
Absolutely. So PCOS is more about irregularity. So essentially the science, you can't process insulin properly. It's all about glucose levels. It's that kind of thing that makes your cycles really, really irregular. And then PMDD is about sensitivity. So you're actually really sensitive to hormonal fluctuations. But again, there's no tests. There is now for PCOS, but there's not for PMDD. So a lot of women go through a cycle of being diagnosed with depression, anxiety. Even in really severe cases, they're diagnosed with bipolar, BPD, and things like that. And it's none of those things. So then you've got women walking around thinking they've got really severe psychiatric disorders that not only alienates them, but also completely invalidates people who actually have those mental health
Yeah.
conditions. And so many people don't even realize that they might even have endometriosis. It takes 7 years on average to diagnose that. You know, there's more funding for Viagra. There's more money and more education around that than there is around endometriosis and women's health. And that is a shocking state for not just the women of today, but the ones that follow in our footsteps behind us. What are they walking into? And I don't want to be part of that problem. If I was going to leave my career that I worked my arse off for and sacrificed so much for, it was to be a force for good in the world and not just put more shit out there, basically. So that's all part and parcel of where Ray's come from and where we're going with it.
That's incredible. In practical terms, and how is Ray helping people discover their hormonal issues?
What it does is it essentially uses your cycle data to show you where you're at, which a lot of the apps already do. But where Ray's different is that it asks you to log your energy and emotions every single day. And it does that through an AI chatbot. So you have your own mini version of ChatGPT, but it's completely different. The algorithm is one that we've worked on ourselves. I'm a certified hormonal health practitioner. I've also got formal qualifications in a million and one things. But essentially what that's allowed us to do is build our own algorithm that isn't biased by the data that's in the rest of the world. ChatGPT, as great as it is, and I'm a big, big believer in it, it is based on real world data, and that is completely biased towards men,
Yeah.
unfortunately. We've built our own algorithm. So the whole point of Ray and the algorithm that we've built in that is that every single user has a very, very personal experience with it. For example, if you both downloaded it, you would have a completely different experience with it than you would. And that's what we want it to be about, is personalised healthcare. And when we say healthcare, it's about tapping into your intuition and being able to hear it. The way that hormones come into that is that your intuition is like a song, but your hormones are the headphones. You can't hear your intuition if your headphones aren't plugged in. And that means if you're not in sync with your hormones, you have no idea what you want, who you are, what your needs are. So not only does it help on a very health level in terms of the AI will flag up, okay, this is slightly different to last month, probably nothing to worry about, let's keep an eye on it, but also what else could be going on here. So when you go to the doctors, you're going to be given the pill or offered a hysterectomy if you've got PCOS and any other women's health issue, which is insane. But what we've trained it to do is really bring in the energy work from Eastern culture with Western medicine. So it's not just about here's a tablet to help regulate you or suppress you, which is what the pill does. It's about understanding what else is going on. Where's there some trauma that's maybe stored in the body that your period can't release because that's in the way? Where is your nervous system clinging on so tightly out of fear or conditioning or suppression, or you've got things inside you that you need to get out and you need to address in order to help your body? It brings both of those things together because there's so much outside of textbooks around women's health. We're very intuitive beings. We are creation, and it's about having an open mind to both sides of that. And that's what Ray really does. And the results speak for themselves. We've had amazing results. We did a 100 user test study over 5 months, and can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but it was something crazy, like 75% of the users reported higher confidence, 65% increased their earnings. There's so much in
Wow.
this that when we treat women with the respect and
Yeah.
give them the knowledge and the access to healthcare that they really, really deserve, we're so capable of anything. And I think there's a reason why that's not willingly given to us.
Well, actually, that is my next question. So, obviously, you've mentioned that hormonal health is so misunderstood, misdiagnosed, underfunded, and it has been for so long. Why do you think that is?
Where to start? We all know that we live in a patriarchal society. We all know the systems that keep women and minorities oppressed. I just don't think it's in anyone's interest for women and oppressed communities like the trans community to have access to their power, because what does that do? That gives us the strength and the courage and the permission to stand up for ourselves. And that's really scary to a patriarchal world. And I think that that's where we're at. And we've reached a really pivotal time in evolution where, you've got to pick a side. You're either with the patriarchy or you aren't. And I think it's also really important to differentiate between men and the patriarchy, because I think when we talk about patriarchy, a lot of men, it triggers them. And I think my statement to that would be, ask yourself why it triggers you, but also it's a system that thrives off of oppressing people. That's what it is, and that's what it does. And it's not in the patriarchy's interest for women to thrive. I've been having a lot of conversations with the trans community, and I strongly believe that they are ahead of where we're at in evolution, because they have been able to find truth and safety in their own bodies outside of society. So no matter what society says or does, they are strong enough and brave enough to live their truth without any form of conditioning. I strongly believe that that is where we're going. They're showing us how to be fluid and be so aligned with our own bodies and our own intuition that they don't care about the repercussions. I think if people are triggered by trans rights, again, ask yourself why, and maybe sit down and listen to them, and you might learn something.
I think Ray's super powerful. That whole app is giving you control over understanding your body and understanding why you're feeling that way, and just reclaiming that power.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think it's so much more than when we talk about cycle tracking and cycle syncing, and it became like a bit of a trend and a bit of a fad. But it's not even about that. Your hormones are the baseline for absolutely everything. Why you maybe will ask for a pay rise one time of the month and not get it, but then at another time in your cycle, you would get it. That's your hormone speaking. So not only is it about tracking and preparing for your period to come, what other superpowers you got during the other phases in your cycle, because there's so many. Like in your follicular phase, you're really creative. That's the time when you're going to want to be thinking about your big ideas and getting ready to pitch them. Ovulation, get yourself out there and network. You're your most magnetic. And they even did a study in America on female strippers. They tracked them throughout their periods and their cycles to see when they earned the most money. Ovulation.
Whoa.
This is science.
Oh, yeah, because you're meant to be better looking when you're
Yeah. And because ovulation, that's when we're on a very primal level, that's when we're at that stage of trying to attract a mate for reproduction. Exactly. So your features are more symmetrical, and that obviously gives you more confidence. The way your hormones are, you've got a real jolt of testosterone as well, which makes you so confident. Yeah, women earn more money, but every woman's completely different. And some people go through ovulation if they've got really sensitive hormones and really sensitive to the fluctuations. Ovulation might not be their most confident time. That's what I think we have to really avoid doing, and something that we're working so hard on at Rhae is that everyone's different. And yes, the 4 phases are really helpful because they give us a framework and a blueprint, but actually every single woman's different. And that's why Rhae is the only app that actually syncs with your hormones, not the textbook version of them.
It's interesting as well that a lot of the period tracking apps that we have at the moment have been created by men.
Don't get me started. Honestly, yeah, it's so true. So Flow, for example, they have been hit with a lot of backlash because look at America and what's happening with women's reproductive rights. They were selling the data, women's data.
Oh my God, that's awful.
I think they've now put things in place to prevent that, and now they're really anti it. I have nothing against the men that created that app because I'm sure it has helped so many women to understand their bodies. But what I do take issue with is that it is so much harder to get funding as a woman running a femtech brand if you do not have a man on your board. And they raised so much money and got $1 billion valuation because they're men. I'm sorry, but I strongly believe that a woman understands a woman's body far better than a man ever could, even with the best intentions, which I'm sure they have. This is not about them as individuals. This is about the society that we live in. I don't want men telling me about my hormones. I understand my hormones, and it's very different if they've got a medical background, which I don't believe either of them have. But it's not even that. It's just about equity and it's about equality. And even when you use Flow, which I have for years before I started Rhae, every time I go on there, I'm sold to. Every time I go on there, the data that I actually want access to is behind a paywall. Let's just all be honest for a second. Yes, things cost money. So tell me that up front. Don't lure me in
It's
and
so
then
true.
hold my data from me and ask me to pay for it. Ask me to pay up front before I give you my data. That's what I really wanted to avoid with Rhae, and that's why we have a flat fee. That's why we have 7-day free. That's why we've done everything we have, because it's honest and we have a mission: create a much more equitable world for everyone, and that includes men. The patriarchy doesn't just harm women; it harms men a hell of a lot.
Just sounds like the most incredible app.
It does, yeah.
I can't
So
wait to
excited.
use it.
It's one of those things as well where I'm sure I know you've had different entrepreneurs on the podcast and like having that kind of streak in you as well. You launch something and you immediately want to change it because you immediately want to make it better. And I think that's passion that grows. It will never be good enough because I will always be striving to make it so much better. We've got a revenue generating MVP, which is incredibly exciting. It's the bare minimum that it could be in order for us to release it. And now we build from there. And like I said, the next step is making it an app that trans women can use as well, because you're either with the patriarchy or you're not. And anything you don't change, you choose. And I cannot sleep at night and feel good about what we're putting out into the world if my app doesn't include trans women.
So you're also pushing back against the performative side of wellness. I know you've coined the term the anti-wellness era.
Yeah.
What exactly does that look like to you?
So where the anti-wellness era came from is that basically everyone's just become really fucking boring. And everyone thinks that if they go to, and no shade against matcha or pilates, they are just my go-to examples because I see them
Do love a bit
everywhere I look. No shade against them. They
It's
make
just a trend.
they
isn't
make
it?
people feel so good. Anything that makes you feel good and makes you feel strong and makes you feel healthy is not a bad thing. However, what I don't like about the wellness industry is that it's been so branded in a patriarchal world that essentially all it does is make women's emotions look prettier and be more manageable. So if you feel rage, go and drink a matcha, go to Reformer Pilates. No. Fucking scream, dance around your house naked to bloody Florence and the Machine or whatever it is that makes you feel good, that helps you get rid of that rage. That's my issue with the wellness industry, is that it's not actually about well-being anymore. It's about consumerism and it's about selling you a prettier, more manageable version of yourself.
aesthetics, yeah.
No point going to Reformer Pilates if you don't understand your hormones, you don't understand your body, because having a toned body means nothing if you don't understand what's going on underneath it.
Yeah, like it's amazing that these things help you feel better, but they're not getting to the root cause of the issue.
This is exactly it. Women deserve more than what the wellness industry has given them. And I think we should push for that. And I think we should stand up for that. And that starts with understanding your own body. Your Reformer Pilates will work better if you understand your body, because it will hit better at different times of the month. You'll go to one class and be like, oh my God, that was so shit because of your cycle, because of your hormones. But if you know that going into that, you know, like, okay, I'm just going to take it easy today. Or maybe I'm not going to do that exercise today. I'm going to go and do some yoga, or I'm going to go for a walk in the sunshine instead. I think it's knowing what's right for you and not feeling like you have to stick in this pigeonhole just because everyone on TikTok's doing it.
It sounds like it's almost like hormone therapy, really understanding and getting deep into that root.
Yeah,
problem.
that's exactly.
Or not problem, just understanding your body.
Completely, that's exactly what it is. Your hormones shape your feelings. We've done a lot of work about hetero relationships with this. We sat down men and we said to them, tell us about your partner's cycle. Tell us about your wife's hormones. Your girlfriend's, she's just really moody at certain times of the month and I don't know what to do. Then when we spoke to the women, it became so abundantly clear that when they come up to that time of the month, that's what they say. Just stay away from me for a bit. I'm really moody. They don't know how to advocate for their own needs. They don't know what's going on in their own bodies. They just dismiss it because that's what they've been told to do. Oh, I'm just a bit crazy this time of the month because I'm on my period. How can you show up in the world and put your best foot forward and be happy in your skin and follow your intuition if you're dismissing it by calling yourself crazy all the time? Because you do feel crazy, but there's a reason for it. And with Rhae, that's exactly what the AI chatbot is in there to do, is for you to use it as your safe space to just figure this shit out. Like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to follow any rules. You don't even have to follow any phases. It's just there to talk to you. I'm not saying it's a replacement for therapy, because therapy is such a great tool, but it does really help mirror back to you your intuition and really help you get to the root of, why am I feeling like this? What's coming up for me? Because that time of the month when we all say we're crazy, we're angry and we can't talk to people and all of that kind of thing, all that is our raw truth without a filter. That's all that is. And it's understanding why that's coming up for you. It's understanding, what is my body trying to tell me? What is my intuition trying to tell me? And just having the space to figure it out. You don't have to pay £500 to go and see a therapist. You can sit and work it out with yourself. That's another part of this puzzle around AI. And I think it's in the wrong hands. Of course, it can be used bad. Of course it can. But in good hands, I think it has the power to change the world.
We both suffer from anxiety sometimes, and I definitely suffer from brain fog and, different symptoms. I just feel like the app that you've created will really help people discover why they're feeling that way. I have so many friends who say, "Oh, I don't know why I'm feeling this way." And now you have that support.
Absolutely. And that's what it really is. And that's what the crux of AI is, right? It just mirrors back your own intelligence. It's not smarter than you. It's just you. What you put in, you get back out. It just helps you to decode things a little bit, and it helps you to translate things that you're feeling into language that you can then use to advocate for yourself. So when that brain fog comes in, it might not necessarily be, oh my God, I can't go to work today. It might be, okay, I know every month around this time, I really struggle to make a decision. I really struggle to advocate for myself. What can I do? And the AI is there as a tool for you to figure that out. It's got your hormonal data to say, look, you've got this coming up. Let's try this month. Maybe you just need to go to sleep. Maybe you don't need to go and drink a matcha. Maybe you need to just go and have a glass of wine with your friends. It doesn't have to be boring all the time. And I think we've reached this point in life where it's like, you're not allowed to drink and you're not allowed to do this. And by all means, if there are reasons for that, but go and have some fun.
It sounds really helpful as well, because I think a lot of times the advice is, oh, your period is due, you're going to be feeling a bit shit, avoid doing this. But sometimes you just have to get stuff done. You have to go to work, you have to show up, you have to present and run a training session or whatever, but really you just want to cry.
Yeah. Exactly that. It's not about tapping out of life, because that's not possible. I don't think women want to, at the root of it, we feel like we want to tap out of life because we're so burnt out from the conditioning, from social media, from comparison, from being sold to 24 hours a day everywhere we look by every single industry. We're the ones they come to sell their shit to. It's not about tapping out of life. It's about making life work for you, because this is your life and you get to decide what that looks like. It's just giving women the empowerment and the confidence to be able to do that.
What have you learned from working to design something more expansive? And what would you say to other founders about building inclusivity from the start?
It's really difficult because it's hard to bring things forward that the world is behind on. So it's very difficult to have conversations with investors. It's very difficult to have conversations with people who aren't thinking in this way, and to try and show them that this is really important. I can't talk about hormones without talking about the trans community. It's absolutely insane. They're the ones that struggle with it the most. Like I said, I was having a conversation the other day with some trans women on social media, and they were saying that the hormones that they take make them suicidal. That feeling that we get right before we come on our periods, imagine that times 10 in a synthetic form. It's so debilitating for them, yet they show up every single day in a world that doesn't want them here. And that is so devastating
So
to know
sad.
that there are humans walking this planet feeling like that, and no one's doing anything about it and no one cares. So from my journey, trying to create something inclusive is, one, trying to actually convince investors and industry leaders who are majority male, but some women as well. I think we also have to be really open and honest about that. Don't think there's a need for it, don't understand it, and would rather put their money behind male biohacking.
Mm.
That's a really difficult space to be in. Plus, we're hit with the stats everywhere we go that startups, their most likely trajectory is fail, and women get 2% of funding. So it's a really difficult spot to be in. But what I've learned is get your blinkers on. Know the stats, and I think it's helpful to use them in an educational space, but ignore them.
Just have to keep going and trying until you've got some of the people who actually do want to listen and help you.
We went down a route really early on, before the app even existed, of looking for funding. And I quickly realized this is a waste of my time right now. I just need to build this, and I need to find the people that I want to build this for, because the community will be the ones who will fund this. And that's exactly what's happened. We still don't have any investment. And I actually am not even actively looking in that space anymore. I'm building something for people. That's where it starts and ends for me, our community. I think everyone says community now and don't really mean it, but build a community. That is the best advice. And I actually got that from Nick, founder of Click. She really rams that home to me, and it's so true. Like, your community will be the ones who buy your product. So start with them.
Obviously, the app uses AI to learn from each user and sync across their lives, so careers, mood, energy. What do you feel has been the biggest breakthrough in designing something this smart and personal?
To not overthink it, actually, because when you're starting out as a founder and you've got your first version of product, you just want it to be perfect. You don't want to put something out that isn't 100% what you think it is. And I had to make a lot of sacrifices in the first version of the app that's now available in order to get it out. That was such a necessary thing to do. And now half of those things that I wanted, I've now realized I didn't even need in the first place. I think it's just about start small and build as you go. Don't put the pressure on yourselves to have something perfect. Just get it out and see what people say.
Yeah.
Because again, community will give you that feedback. And ours is so engaged. We have a WhatsApp mailing list, and all I do is send a broadcast out being like, guys, where we at? Like, how are we all feeling? What's going on? What's good about the app? What don't you like about the app? What do you want next? That's my map. That's what it's all about. Listening to yourself, but also listening to the people that you want to help, because they'll give you the answers, and just not putting the pressure on yourself to have it all figured out, because you're not meant to.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier about how you want to keep making the app better and better. But the beauty of AI is it does learn, doesn't it? So it
This is
is
exactly
naturally
it.
going to get better.
This is exactly it. I think AI can literally help humanity evolve. We've done so much testing, not just with ChatGPT in our research phase, and we still do that every single day. We're using ChatGPT to learn from it and take the good and leave the not so good and take the bits that we want from it so that we can create an AI algorithm that really works for our community and is very specific to them. It's learning all the time. That's such an amazing thing, because that means we're constantly evolving, and it takes the stress off of me trying to figure it out. We've got this amazing tool. Let's use it to change the world in a really good way instead of being scared of it.
It makes me sad that some people are scared of it because they don't realise the potential and how much it's going to change our lives.
I think a lot of the fear mongering comes from AI is going to replace my job. But my argument to that would be you're not doing a job that's purpose filled, because AI can never, ever, 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 ever recreate or replace human connection, human creativity, or human purpose. If you're doing a job that doesn't tick those boxes, you shouldn't be doing it. Go and get a job that makes you happy, because AI can't replace a job that makes you happy.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I would also say that a lot of the time we go into it wanting answers, and we don't realize that it's not actually in the answers. It's the questions you ask. It's about asking the right questions, and you will get the right answers for you. If you don't know what questions to ask, you're going to get a generic
Mm.
shit response. That's why AI just fits so well with Rhae, because it's about understanding what you want and figuring out what you want. And Rhae helps you to figure out those questions. And we also do that. A massive part of our community interaction and engagement is ask it this today, ask it this today, ask it this today, like really helping users along their journey to understand how to use AI properly in order to get the best out of it. Such an exciting time. And if it is in the right hands, it can create a lot of good change.
I actually once heard at a conference I went to that we should be calling it advanced intelligence rather than artificial intelligence, because it
Completely.
is all about us and what we put into it.
It makes people smarter, it makes people kinder, and I think it makes people understand themselves more, because it's you reflected back at you. What I've learned is where before I've maybe had the tendencies to be a bit of a perfectionist and to be a bit kind of OCD without wanting to invalidate what OCD actually is, but having those tendencies to be really particular about things. What AI's made me realize is I'm using the wrong language. I'm just precise. I know what I want, and I know what something should look like. Whereas before I beat myself up about pressure and wanting to be this perfectionist and this overachiever, and all of those things are true, but AI gives me language back to me. I'm just precise. And I think there's nothing wrong with being precise. It doesn't mean anything other than you know what you're doing. It just gives you that empowerment. So I think if you use it in the right way, you ask it the right questions, it will give you really, really good answers.
We heard that Rhae has been valued in the 7-figure range. That's amazing, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And this is before launch. So what's that growth been like behind the scenes?
Hard, chaotic. I've never wanted to walk away, and I never will, because the passion is always much bigger than the product. But the growth is about self-development. I think that's been a huge part of this. I'm a completely different person to the person I was 6 months ago, a year ago, because everyone will say this, but entrepreneurship is self-development on steroids. Like, it really is. You have to get through your shit in order to get out the other side of it and help humanity. I hope that the majority of entrepreneurs, that is what they're trying to do in their own way, no matter how big or small the problem is that they're trying to solve. That's the goal, is to make someone's life easier.
Mm.
The growth has been really hard sometimes, because I gave up a lot in terms of financial security and structure and everything I've ever known. And I went into complete free fall. So getting a 7-figure valuation pre-launch was that moment to me. It doesn't matter what anyone says. even if I hadn't had that valuation, I know how much this is worth and I know how much value this brings. And I think whilst I'm so proud that we've got that valuation, regardless, you don't need a number to make you feel valuable. You don't need a number to prove that you're doing something right,
Yeah,
inside.
it's having that self-belief as well, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
just believing in what you love and your passion and just going for it.
That's it, exactly. And I think a lot of people have asked me as well about how do I raise a child whilst building a business? And it's all happened at the same time. Like my little girl's 2 years old and she is my driver. Every single thing I do is for her because I don't like the world that we live in. We've reached a point now where you either change it or you choose it. And I'm choosing to change it.
So, your podcast, Playing to Win, brings together powerful women to speak honestly and disrupt the narrative. What made you want to create that space?
It's really interesting because I literally did TikTok about this earlier. It's like you've read my mind. I think that when I was at school, and I'm sure so many women can relate to this, every school report, every parents' evening, everything that was wrong with me was that I talked too much. That's all. She's wasting her potential because she sat talking the whole time. And I think it's so dangerous that we crush intuition and creativity out of children. And what I've learned is communication. I've been in FTSE 100 in PR and marketing my entire career. That's communication in a capitalist corporate world.
Yeah.
Communication is my superpower. That's how I tell stories. That's how I make people feel better about themselves. That's how I empower people. And I've got a lot to say and I'm not hiding that anymore. And I think we're always told as women, like, you're too much, be quiet. An opinionated woman is not an attractive woman. I don't fucking care. I've got a lot to say and I want to say that. And I've created a platform and I'm very lucky to have an amazing team who have helped me to do that. This is not just me. I've got one of my best friends rents her studio to me. We've got an amazing producer. And between the three of us, we just make it work. And I've been so lucky that the guests that I've reached out to have said yes. Don't get me wrong, there's some that didn't even reply. Like it's not as glamorous and straightforward as it looks. But I wanted to create a space where, having come from a PR and marketing background, I know how twisted narratives are because I'm the one that's done it. I understand how facts are distorted in order to get headlines. I know that because I've been the person behind the scenes doing it for my career. I wanted to create a space where women feel safe to speak how they want to speak, to talk about things that they want to talk about. We have had everything from building a business while you're in motherhood, dropping out of school, not going to university, hormones, period stories, literally everything. It's the full spectrum of what women are. And I think the real crux of the podcast and why I wanted to do it was to show that women do not have to fit in a box. They're multifaceted. We can have 1,000,001 interests. We don't have to be this or that. We can be whoever the fuck we want to be.
Yeah.
And just giving them the space to have those conversations and not feel like they have to perform. And obviously there'll always be an element of that because you're on camera. So like you can't completely shut that down, but just having that ability to sit and just have a chat with me and just talk about it woman to woman and not feel like we've got to pretend to be anything that we're not. And I think that's why it's done so well, is because you see that in the women that come on and the stories that they tell. And it never turns out to be the episode I thought it was going to be because it goes down different routes. And I think it's just a beautiful display of women.
You said something that really resonates with me, the fact that you were always very communicative and that was your superpower. I love that because I've always felt like communication's always been my superpower. And I wish they'd taught you or said to you in school, oh, you'd actually be really good at public speaking or
Yes.
even business or entrepreneurship. And you probably never got told that. And it's just really nice for people who might feel a similar way that they could go into something similar and do something amazing like you have.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things as well where you're the only one who knows and the world is going to try and beat that out of you every which way you turn, through your algorithm, through the people you're around, the education system, the government, everywhere you look. And it's having the strength to know, I know what I want to do. It all comes down to hearing your intuition. You can't hear your intuition without your hormones. That's what this is all about, is giving people the confidence to go, yeah, okay, I might have been a little shit at school, but actually that means that I can go on and create these really disruptive businesses that are going to make the world a better place. All school is a memory test. I was always really academic at school until I wasn't. And then instead of taking that as like, okay, maybe I'm actually creative, I shrunk myself and I went to university because I didn't think that, like,
I wish I never went.
I wish I never ever went. I just want to give my 18-year-old self a hug because I think she thought she was doing everything right, but didn't realize how unhappy she really was. And it's only when I look back now that I'm like, oh, girl.
I never regret it, but you could have done so much sooner.
Exactly. And I have so much admiration for the people of our generation who either said, nope, not going, not doing it, or went and said, nope, I'm leaving. This is not for me. Because I had those signals, but I didn't know how to hear them. Exactly. And maybe that's because I had PCOS going on. Maybe that's because I had all of this stuff going on that meant I didn't know how to hear my intuition anymore because I wasn't in touch with my hormones.
Just bringing it back to the original topic about school, I actually had the opposite problem to you guys. I was incredibly quiet. I was always the shy kid. And like throughout my whole life, I've been told that I'm too quiet. I'll never be able to hold a high enough position because I'm too quiet. I'm too sensitive. I'm too emotional. And I think it's really nice when you see podcasts like yours where you get different profiles of women, because a lot of times I've actually been told those things from other women as well. I think both women and men need to see there's different types of people that can be successful.
Yeah.
And that's quite inspiring for me to see.
I think when you see other people who are in that position and you're like, whoa, we can do it too.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. You can literally do anything you want. And I'm so sorry that you've had that experience because especially when I hear that it's other women as well. And I am not a saint. I'm sure I have upset other women in my life. I know I have upset other women in my life. But I think that's another issue.
That's because we're being socialized that way, again, because of the system.
Completely. There's a huge issue that we have in the female community, and that's how we treat each other. And we have to take accountability for that. We have to do better for ourselves, but also for each other. We have to stop beating the shit out of each other with our words and holding each other back and putting each other down just because it makes us feel good for 1 minute. Like, no, we've got enough going on. Imagine if we all came together. Imagine what the world would actually look like if we stopped being fucking pick-me girls.
Amazing.
Like, it would be amazing. And you, as an example for that, strength and softness aren't opposites. They're sisters, okay? So just because you're softer does not mean you are less strong, does not mean you are less capable. And a lot of women who maybe have said that to you, maybe that's coming from a place for them of they feel that they have to act like men in order to reach those high levels of success, especially in the corporate world. I've seen it, I've worked underneath it, and I feel sorry for them because they don't feel strong enough to be soft. And I think that's the same when you mirror that with men. They don't feel strong enough to be able to be soft because they see it as a weakness, and it's not a weakness.
Completely agree with you.
And I just want to give them a hug and be like, girl, take a break.
Yeah, okay, stop pretending.
You don't need to be a bitch. You just don't need to. Just be yourself. And if that is loud and confident and a lot and chaotic, fucking fabulous. But if it is quieter and softer and more gentle, equally fucking fabulous.
Yeah.
It's just this thing all the time of women have to be a certain way in order to do X, Y, Z. Be whoever you want.
Can I also say it's okay to cry? You're allowed to feel soft, sad, whatever, you're allowed to cry.
It's a strength. Vulnerability is a strength. We've just been conditioned to believe that it's not. If the world understood that, maybe we wouldn't have a patriarchal society because I think men, they just need a good cry. And I want them to feel safe enough to be able to express their emotions because maybe then women wouldn't stop, being harmed all the time and all of the awful things that we go through, and they wouldn't be harming themselves either.
That's so true.
It's not a coincidence that suicide rates spike at the biggest times in our life when our hormones change. For men, the suicide rates spike when they're teenagers, when they get that huge rush of testosterone, don't know what to do with it. And then when they get older and that testosterone stops peaking, that's also a massive suicide rate spike. Women, postpartum and menopause, they're the two highest times when women are most likely to commit suicide. So hormones and suicide rates, it's not a coincidence. They're hand in hand, they're entwined. If we could all just give ourselves permission to lean into ourselves instead of lashing outwards all the time and have the vulnerability to really look in the mirror and go, why do I feel like this? Take the time to sit with yourself. Maybe we'd all be a bit happier and healthier.
Let's talk about your work as an energy scientist. This is really cool. Me and Sen have been super excited to talk about this topic. It's such a unique and fascinating space. How would you describe what an energy scientist is and what you do?
I called myself the energy scientist because I have so much formal training in Western medicine. I'm a certified hormone health practitioner. I've got a degree. I've studied sociology at a high level, all of that kind of stuff. But I also do so much in the energy workspace. And They are hand in hand. When you bring Western and Eastern together, that's what energy science is, because it's not just about a textbook and academia. It's about practical ancient wisdom that is so prevalent. So for me, nothing that I did, none of my qualifications fit in a box. So I just thought, fuck it, I'll make my own box. And that was as the energy scientist. And I think it's a really good way of showing harmony in energy, in masculine and feminine, in Eastern and Western. And I think it does what it says on the tin.
So you said that you don't give advice or coaching, but that you help people receive the message their nervous system has been blocking.
Yes.
What does that look or feel like in practice?
What essentially it does is, a lot of the time, and again, touching on the hormone space here, is that our bodies are trying to tell us something, and that can look like anxiety, that can look like brain fog, that can look like you wake up in the middle of the night because you need a wee, and it happens every single night at the same time.
No, me too.
Oh my
Yes.
God, sometimes twice or three times.
Yeah. So that's cortisol. That's what that is. That's because you've got high levels of cortisol that your body doesn't know what to do with. And that's why it disrupts your sleep, because it's struggling to regulate. And it's really common, not normal, but
And I was
very
like, do I
common.
I got that badly when I was in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
I needed to go to the toilet several times during the night.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
your body is trying to tell you things, and we can't translate the message sometimes. That was your body trying to say something's not right here. You're not listening to your intuition. You know that there's something not right, but you can't place it, or it hasn't reached a certain level of consciousness in your head yet that you need to leave that relationship in this
Yeah.
example. So what I do is decode that, the signs that is coming through their body, and translate it to them in language that they understand. And we do that through various different NLP therapy techniques, also lots of different work in energy and how we kind of process that, and hormones, and it's all wrapped up together. And then people go, oh my God, you just read my mind. Or they say, wow, I've been going to therapy for 10 years and no one's ever explained it in that way. That's what it is. It's because you have to listen to people. That's what I do. I listen and I hear what they're saying, but they can't hear what they're saying, if that makes sense. So they're telling me something, but they don't understand the message behind it. And that's my job, is to dissect it and figure it out where it's coming from. And we do that through ancestral trauma. And I've even recently been dabbling in the spirituality space, and have even had weird messages come through. I've said them to a client and they've gone, how do you know that? And this is something that's accessible to everyone. Anyone can have spiritual experiences and messages and stuff like that. But what I've found is that when you listen, you will hear things that you didn't realize were always there.
You say it's like an intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has come from being so aware of what my body's trying to tell me. I can hear things better now, whether that's something that my body's trying to tell me, some anxiety that's come up. So I've noticed that anytime I'm getting like a message for someone, I start to cough, and it's happened completely randomly. And every single time I've said something, having no consciousness of what I'm saying that means anything to that person, and they're going, wait, what? So it's just a beautiful space to be in when you find that harmony between science and spirituality. I just wish that every woman could have that awakening, because I think you get so in tune with your spiritual gifts that everyone has. It's just about having the courage to listen to them. It's just being able to be so tapped in. Like, I also know that when I'm in my luteal phase, I'm more likely to hear things or see things or experience more spiritual. I also know that's when I can manifest better and bend reality a little bit more, because there's no filter between me and my intuition. That is your luteal phase. You've just got no filter. It's a really interesting world that we're moving closer to. And I think we're already seeing that with manifestation becoming such a popular thing
Everyone's
to do.
trying to
Everyone
manifest
wants
their
to
life.
manifest. Yeah. Everyone wants to manifest their lives. But I think manifestation, again, similar to wellness industry, it's just been branded and consumerized, but there's definitely some science in it. 100%.
It's interesting because I like to think I'm quite an intuitive person. I get feelings about friends and people that I know really well because I think I'm so in sync with their mannerisms and the way they think. So often I'll know if a friend is upset if I'm not with them, and I'll know I need to text them. I don't know why, it's just a feeling. But with you, how do you do that with a client that you've only just met? Do you have to spend a few sessions just getting to know them?
Firstly, the reason why you feel like that is absolutely because you're intuitive. Absolutely. That's because your spiritual gifts are closer to your consciousness than maybe some other people's. And if I'd have had this conversation a year ago, I would have said I was absolutely insane. I think you just get closer to them, and maybe that is for you, they're just easier to reach. So don't ever dismiss it, because it's a superpower and it's such a beautiful gift to have access to. For me, with clients, if there's something that needs to be said, it will be said. For example, it was in a second session with someone when I got something come through for them and I didn't realize it was even a message. So I just said it because I've reached a place where I'm so in tune with energy and I'm so in tune with the people around me when I'm in a certain headspace. And obviously, I make sure that when I go into a client session, I'm never sat there making notes. I'm sat there working on my energy field to make sure that it's open and it's expansive and I'm holding space for them. And it is literally just about listening. I just listen. That's all I do. And it sounds so basic, but there's a lot of work behind it. I know what I'm listening for, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I guess it's like reading between the lines, but listening between the lines. Like it's not
Completely.
necessarily what someone's saying. It's
Completely. And also, having done this for so long now, it's about understanding exactly that. Like, I know if anxiety around a certain topic or if their cycle is late, irregular, whatever that looks like, I know where to prod it a little bit more. I know where the wound is and I know how to be really precise about finding it. And I think that precision and being so obsessive with being precise is what allows me to have those huge transformational results for people.
So you actually mentioned earlier on that you work with things like ancestral patterns, hormonal imprints, emotional timelines. How does someone know when they're ready to do that kind of deep work?
Anyone can have this at any point in their life. But firstly, what those things mean is that trauma is stored in our bodies, it's stored, and we are in the wombs of our grandmothers. So that's just
oh yeah, I've
science
heard
and,
this.
and
Yeah.
I think Kris
biology.
Jenner said.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's where I heard.
It's true. It's true. So when you're a fetus, when you're in the womb, you have all of the eggs in your ovaries, and that is your lifetime supply of eggs. So you are in your grandmother's womb because your mum or dad was an egg. Da da da. And because trauma is stored in the body, anything that happens to your lineage, particularly the women in your lineage, that trauma is passed down through their bodies. And what we're finding now is the world has never been so sad, but has also never been so awakened because we're all starting to collectively question things, be a bit more spiritual, connect back with that ancient wisdom that ancestors thousands of years ago knew. When they were sat around campfires doing breath work, they knew what they were doing and how to connect with these things and how to release trauma from the body somatically. Anyone's at a point to do this, but it's whether you are open-minded enough to go that deep. And I usually find that people come to me when they're manifesting, but nothing's happening. Or they're so frustrated, they're sad, they're lonely, even if they've got families, they feel stuck or they feel broken, but they don't know why. So a lot of the time people come looking for answers. I don't give them answers. I just help them find the answers within themselves. And I think that's why it works so well. And then they leave feeling so powerful. It is that thing of just giving people the space to just talk
Yeah.
and to be heard and to have someone sat there who is obsessively listening to what they are saying. And for a lot of people, they're like, I've never said this to anyone and no one's ever allowed me to say it in this way. And I think that's the power of it. And that's how we release that ancestral trauma. And if there's a lot of ancestral trauma, that's when something tends to come through out of the blue for me. And I will say something and they'll go, oh my God, yeah, my grandmother lost a child. And they may have lost that child, held that trauma in their body, because you have to think about the generations before us, the worlds that they lived in. They didn't look like this. It was very kind of stoic and stiff upper lip.
Forward
She will have
looking,
stored that
yeah.
trauma in her body and then gone on to have your parent, who then went on to have you. So that trauma's never been processed. It's never been released. So then it's released through you. It's amazing how powerful bodies are, especially women's.
Yeah, because they say like when you're pregnant, don't get stressed because you'll pass that stress to the baby. Is it similar to that?
Yeah, essentially, our bodies hold everything. So, for example, I'm doing some work right now to understand the deep root of where my PCOS comes from, because my PCOS, I strongly believe, is something that hasn't just appeared out of nowhere. It's a result of trauma and suppression that's just been stored in my body. So when you think about anxiety, how that makes you feel, it doesn't make you feel up here, it makes you feel here. It's in your chest, it's in
Yeah.
your gut, especially if you have a panic attack. That's not your head, it's your body that can't breathe. So what we do is, by suppressing all of that, instead of trying to get to the root of why we feel like that, we just keep it in our body. So it's the same thing. So imagine losing a child in the 1930s. That probably wasn't a great place to be in, right?
Mm.
That's a really difficult
Not
time.
sure.
It's a difficult time regardless of what generation you are, but especially then, that woman wouldn't have had the space to talk about her feelings or to take some time to really process what's happened to her. And
Yeah.
it would have been, get back to it. You've got
Yeah,
more
don't
kids
tell
to
anyone.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Just get on with it. So they've just kept it in their body, like stored anxiety, and then you've been in their body because you were in their womb. So that all passes on to you, and it's exactly the same when we hear about, not only from a medical perspective, don't get stressed when you're pregnant, but it's for that reason as well. It's energetically what you're passing through to that child, and that's why we have recollections of things that maybe weren't ours, or you feel certain things or certain triggers about things that you're like, why am I so triggered about this song or this whatever? Because it doesn't really have a connection to me that I can remember.
Interesting.
It's
I love
super
it.
interesting. And this is a lot more mainstream now as well. And people like Joe Dispenza, Mel Robbins, even Oprah talk about stuff like this.
Yeah.
This is something that is really coming into mainstream now, which I think is amazing.
Do you know what? I always, like, there's a loud noise, I'll feel really anxious. And it's probably the trauma thing.
Completely.
Yeah.
There's parts of our brain that we can't access that have stored memories in. And that's why breath work's so amazing, because it shuts down your prefrontal cortex and gives you access to your limbic system, which is where all those memories and trauma are stored that our brain and nervous system's protecting us from. So it will probably be something, it could be something so insignificant that your body's just held on to, and it might not even be your trauma to hold.
We're going to move on to a new section. This is called Hot Takes. The first one is, if men had periods, hormone syncing would already be a £1 billion industry.
100%. They'd have a week off for their period. They'd
Yes.
get gift. They wouldn't be at work. They would have no stress. They would be wrapped up in cotton wool balls because they would be the source of creation. And that is what women are. And yes, men and women, of course, are the source of creation, together, whether it's in IVF, same sex, whatever that looks like. But why are we not wrapped up in cotton wool? Because we carry children, carry life. We are miracles. I think the world would be a very different place.
Okay, the next one is, we've confused the aesthetics of Pilates and matcha with actual self-care.
Completely. 100%. And you know what? If it makes you feel good, go and do it. But I know that you still have anxiety, and I know that you still feel shit sometimes, and I know that you're not syncing your hormones, and I know that when you sit and meditate, you can't do it because you don't have the bravery to sit still with yourself. So by all means, go and do it. But unless you're doing all the other things, it's
Not going anywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Most burnout starts in the nervous system, not the to-do list.
Completely, 100%. We are shown warning lights continuously, but we just push through them and we ignore them. Anytime you feel anxious, or the Sunday scaries, any of that kind of stuff, that is burnout being like, hello, you need to start paying attention to me. It's a warning light on a dashboard that we've never been told how to recognise.
Being emotionally overwhelmed isn't a personality flaw, it's a strength.
It's definitely not a personality flaw. I think that being emotionally overwhelmed means that you have so much good in you and you have nowhere to put it, because we don't live in a good world 90% of the time. So when you're emotionally overwhelmed, you just don't have anywhere to release it. You haven't found your way to channel that into something. What happens is that emotional overwhelm turns to burnout. And then that's when we see people, particularly women, have these huge breakdowns, or they leave the workplace because it's not built for us and never has been. So I think emotional overwhelm is never a flaw, but I think that it's about finding the right channel, the right routine, the right rituals for you so that you can release it in a really healthy and productive way.
Definitely. Okay, last one is, hormones affect your ambition more than your mindset does.
Yes, completely. How do you know what you want? Because ambition looks different to everyone. And I think especially now with this entrepreneur thing at the moment, which I love because I think it gives women the freedom and the power to create a life on their terms. But I think it's also glamorized, and it's okay to have a 9 to 5. If that's what works for you, do it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's only your way, unless you know what ambition means to you and what ambition looks like to you, which you will find out once you have a regulated nervous system because you're tracking your hormones. Of course it affects your ambition, because without tracking your hormones, you don't know what it is. So yeah, definitely.
That's true. And you're right, ambition looks different to everyone.
Completely. Like, ambition for some people is being a stay-at-home mom. It's off to them. Couldn't do it. I have so much respect and praise for those women who do choose to do that.
Yeah.
Equally, I also think if you're doing both, or if you don't ever want to have kids, equally as impressive.
We're going to move on to the listener dilemma part now. The past few months, I felt exhausted and overwhelmed, even though I'm not technically doing too much. I've tried journaling, meditating, going for walks, but I still feel off. I don't know if it's to do with my hormones or if I'm burnt out. What should I do? What can I do?
All of those things. It's definitely hormones, it's definitely burnout. You are disconnected from yourself, therefore you can't hear what you actually need anymore. Your body's now in real fight or flight mode where it's the warning signs that you haven't been taught how to translate, taught how to understand, have now turned into a foghorn. And that is anxiety, that is burnout, that is stuck in your patterns that you actually don't know what you want anymore. You're so disconnected from who you are. And that is a combination of a million things. The first thing to do, forget journaling and stuff like that for now, because again, that's more surface level stuff. It's deep nervous system rewiring. And that starts with start tracking your hormones, whether it's through an app like Rhae or just writing it down on your phone. Just start paying attention and log in those patterns that you feel every day. Do you feel exhausted today? Do you feel happy today? Start trying to put some patterns together, because that will give you a much deeper understanding of what's going on under the surface. And then once you can take notice of that and you can pay attention to that, then you can start journaling about it, and then you can start meditating about it. That's really where this all starts and ends. Doesn't have to be Rhae, just start paying attention to it because it's trying to tell you something.
We have one final question. What do you wish you knew sooner?
That I don't have to have it all figured out. That is okay. That I'm not behind. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be at exactly the right time. That I have so much more power than I ever thought I did.
Aw.
And I wish I could go back and tell my 10-year-old, 16-year-old, 21-year-old, 30-year-old self all of those things, because I think she'd be a lot happier than she
Yeah.
was. But I think that's also part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't take life too seriously either. You know, you're here to enjoy it.
Yeah, we're all on our own journeys. And I think it's so important that we remind ourselves that because, yeah, maybe 20-year-old me and you probably wanted to start doing this, but we're doing it now for a reason. You're
Yeah.
creating Rhae now for a reason. And I think it's just remembering that it's still achievable, whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. I think Forbes released something recently, like 90% of the women on the Forbes rich list are in their 50s. So you're actually really early.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not living in a world that is conducive to our success. So just take a break to reward yourself for that, for pushing through. You're pushing something up a hill, right? And you're doing it. You're
Passionate about it.
and you're passionate about it. If you know what you want and you're doing things to help people and you want to make the world a better place, you can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong. People say, oh, I've got these regrets and these mistakes. I think as long as you're aligned with your passion and your truth, nothing's wrong. It's all just lessons that kind of push us closer towards our purpose. So, yeah.
Nice. So I guess for anyone who wants to follow your journey and explore Rhae and playing to win, where can they find you?
So Instagram and TikTok, I'm the energy scientist, and then Playing to Win you can listen to on all the platforms, and you can download Rhae through our website. So yeah, lots of touch points, but it's just one of those things where if you come across our work, great, but you will when you're ready for it. And don't force anything. If it's not the right time, it's not the right time. But Rhae and everything we're doing will always be there when women are ready.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it. We just want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. So lovely.